Hello, and welcome to Application Development for SAP Business by Design here on openSAP. My name is Nick Rose. I'm a development architect in the Cloud Service Center, part of Custom Development, and I'll be your instructor for the course. Throughout this course, we'll be looking at how to use the SAP Cloud Application Studio, the SDK that's available for development on SAP Business by Design. It's a 6-week course, and we'll cover a lot of different topics throughout those 6 weeks. In week 1, unit 1, we'll first be going through an introduction of what the course will be, some prerequisites, and a little bit of a high-level intro to the Cloud Application Studio itself. So let's begin. So throughout the next 6 weeks, like I mentioned, we'll be looking at the SAP Cloud Application Studio. We'll be looking at how to use the different features that are there, what are the different options that are available to us when it comes to development, maybe some restrictions. And in the beginning, we'll start out by creating some custom content, basically creating a new object, some screens for it, just to get familiar with the studio itself. Then we'll move on to extensibility. How can I extend SAP objects and screens within SAP Business by Design? And we'll tie our custom content to the standard content. That way we can provide a much richer application and experience to the user. We'll go into some advanced topics like analytics, web services and integration, forms, different functionalities besides just the typical UI and business object. And finally, at the end, we'll look at lifecycle. How do I manage a solution and move it to a production or another test tenant after I finish my development and continue development going forward? Some recommended prerequisites for the course. It's very beneficial if you know what SAP Business by Design is as far as application flow. So how are business processes represented in SAP Business by Design? What's the typical user flow in the UI? What are the different types of UIs? Basically, having an understanding and feel for how the application works and moves will be very beneficial throughout this course. Without those, some sections you may find to be a little bit more difficult or challenging. We don't cover the basics of SAP Business by Design in this course, and so that's why I mentioned it as a prerequisite. Also, having a basic understanding of programming. So knowing basic programming skills, if you know a couple different programming languages, that's even more beneficial. Knowing how to write application logic and some simple coding, understanding maybe what a business object typically is. We'll discuss some of these things throughout the course, but having basic programming skills will be a great benefit to you. Without those, you may find some of the sections in here quite challenging. Also, if you are familiar with REST and or SOAP-based web services, then that will be a good benefit to you when it comes to integration. We do talk about these in the integration section, and knowing what these technologies are will add a good leap in helping you understand the content for those specific sections. A little bit about SAP Business by Design just before we get into the studio. So SAP Business by Design is a full business suite for SME customers, so that's small and medium enterprise. It basically is a modularized solution of containing CRM, HCM, SRM, a very wide variety of business areas and scenarios. It's, as I mentioned, very modular and flexible, meaning you can turn content on and off depending on what you want to actually use. You're not required to use the entire suite that's available. There's a lot of built-in service and support that's available. So for example, I can use what's called the Help Center. If I'm wondering, let's say on the sales order screen, what I might need to enter or what a certain action might mean. And it's going to give me context-sensitive help. So that way when I open the Help Center, it'll actually show me sales order specific help content. And I can always search for more directly from the front end itself. Also, users can file incidents directly from the front end, whatever screen they are, and that way they can help get better support and quicker support on any issues they might face. And most importantly for us is that it's very flexible and extensible and provides a very good partner platform. So the front end, SAP Business by Design has adaptation menu or key user tool. And this is where business users can make simple changes, add a new extension field, publish it to a screen, a web service, a data source. Minor changes, simple things that they can do from the front end, but from the SAP Cloud Application Studio is where you can do a lot more extensive development. And that's the focus that we're looking at. The platform and the framework that's in place makes it very easy for us to build lots of content and provide new user experiences and applications within SAP Business by Design. The studio itself is built on Microsoft Visual Studio, the isolated shell. So you're not required to have a full license to Microsoft Visual Studio. If you already have Microsoft Visual Studio, then great. But you'll see all we'll need is the isolated shell, which is a free download. And it's basically built as a plugin on top of that. And this is going to allow us to develop anything that we need to within SAP Business by Design. The application SAP Business by Design has many different screens that are available, not only desktop, but also mobile and other scenarios. And we'll be able to extend those scenarios using the studio as well. There's other content that we'll see throughout the course related to the studio. For example, public solution model. The public solution model, or PSM, is basically what SAP has dictated as part of the standard objects and screens, what can and cannot be extended. So for example, sales order, what parts of sales order can I extend? How can I use it within my coding? Things like this. And we're going to go into much more detail about that. The tool itself has built-in lifecycle capabilities, so any of the lifecycle management I need to do with my solutions, I can do directly from the SAP Cloud Application Studio. I don't have to go anywhere else, which is very nice. You'll see that there's some reuse of key user tools that's in place. The two are very separate technically, but we'll see in different places where we reuse these two. And we'll talk about some of those differences throughout the actual course itself. You'll notice in a lot of the places that there's a lot of wizards that are there, meaning that they quickly help us as developers to generate new content in a very time-efficient manner. So if I want to create a new web service, I can say new web service for this object, and a wizard will guide me through what operations I want, what data should be in each operation, and fairly quickly I can have a WSDL file ready to send to somebody for an integration to an external system. And also there's the capability to publish solutions to the SAP store. We won't go too much into detail in this course about that. I will talk briefly about it, but you have the capability that whatever you build, you can sell to other customers and partners, anybody else using SAP Business by Design to use, and there's a process in place for that as well. A little bit about the architecture of the actual platform. So the platform itself and the solution follows an MVC pattern, model view controller. The model being the persistence layer, where the database is, also containing the search engine in our case, basically the real structure of the data that's within the application. The view is the actual UI, or the user interface. So in our user interface, we have things like work centers, work center views, transactional UIs, analytics UIs, and these we'll touch on all of them throughout our development. And the final part is the controller, the actual business objects themselves. So these are what are representing the different entities within the application. They also contain the logic that's in place, the different coding that's there. And so throughout the studio, we'll touch on all of these three different points. Also, the framework that's in place provides very ease of use of the different typical CRUD operations: create, read, update, and delete. We won't have to define what it means to create a specific business object. The framework will already know what it means to create one and be able to quickly generate and update them for us. We just have to worry about applying what is that actual object, what makes it up, and the different typical behavior for that object. That wraps it up for this unit. In the next unit, we will look at actual download and installation of the studio. Thank you very much.